everyone, it's Lady Raven, the Wild Witch, and sorry I'm a little bit late. I'm experiencing some issues with technology. As usual, technology is kicking my butt. Anyway, so here we are going to be talking today about the Lionsgate portal. And there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about that because I have spent the weekend doing a lot of research on that to really try to understand where this whole idea of Lionsgate came from and what is the actual truth that sits behind that, right? So the name that people use right now of Lionsgate portal is a name that is basically a new age name. This is not what was happening before. So let me tell you what I found out about this so that you can understand it a little bit better. So in ancient Egypt, you would have one of the things that they marked was the rise of the Sirius star, right? And it would rise on the horizon around between July, August timeframe. And this became a very important time for them because normally this time would mark the flooding of the Nile River. So they definitely needed to know when that was happening. They also believed that Sirius, the star Sirius, would fuel our sun. And so if the star Sirius didn't rise, then they would not have enough heat going on to be able to do whatever they needed to do. So those are the two things that happened back then, right? So keep in mind that the calendar has changed, right? Back then, the calendar that they used was a calendar that connected really well with the cycles of nature. But then when you had Greece came in and started really looking at that, what ended up happening was that they started changing the calendar. This is when we started moving into the Gregorian calendar, right? And so, for example, all of the months would align in the way that they were supposed to align. That was aligned with nature. There were more months, that whole different situation. But what ended up happening was when they created this, the months moved around. So, for example, October was now the 10th month. Back then it was considered the 8th month. Hey Trisha, good to see you. Back then it was considered the 8th month. So now it's the 10th month. So these are the changes that have happened in the calendar over time. And so we want to make sure that we understand kind of where this energy is coming from and where all of this is coming from to understand where we are right now. So the dates that Sirius would actually rise on the horizon actually were probably around July timeframe. But because of the Earth's wobble, since those thousands of years ago, that date has changed. And now it happens sometimes in early August. It could be August 8th, or it could not be August 8th. It doesn't matter. So August 8th came into play due to the numerology associated with the number 88. But if you look back into history, like we just talked about, in terms of nature, this is not the 8th month, right? This is the 8th month because we made it the 8th month, but it is not naturally the 8th month. So it's really difficult to understand. I mean, the New Age movement has taken a lot of these ancient concepts and repackaged them and created something new out of them. So Lionsgate is one of those things. But just because of that, it doesn't mean that there's not good energy that you can still tap into during this time. So for the Egyptians, the most important thing was you had Sirius, which would be rising, and then that would be aligning with the Orion system, which was very important to them. Represented three of their deities, very, very crucial for that time. So as Sirius was rising and it was aligning with that, for them, they believe that now the sun is going to have enough fuel to get through the summer. We know that the Nile River is going to flood soon. We know that all of these things are about to happen. So for them, it really became a date that they would set their calendars by, and they would be looking to that portal. To that rising star. So it didn't become a portal until later. It was not a portal back then, but it didn't become a portal until later. And the reason why the lion is associated with it is because it happens in August, and August is Leo, which is kind of interesting because the more I dug in, the more I found out that the way that our signs are right now, the sun is actually, if you would look at the sky and look at which constellation the sun is in, without looking at an astrological calendar, right? Just looking at an actual NASA calendar to see what the sun is actually aligned with right now, it would probably be aligned to Cancer instead of being aligned to Leo. Back then, it was aligned with Leo. And this is why the Sphinx, for example, was built supposedly to be facing the Leo constellation. So this is why a lot of times there's also a lot of relationship between Lionsgate and the Sphinx. Very big connection there as well. But since things have changed and moved, and it's once again because of the Earth's wobble, we are not really sitting at that point anymore. Now we are, when the Sphinx is faced to the Lion constellation, it is no longer during this time of year. During this time of year, the sun is actually attached to the sign of Cancer. It's not really attached to that sign. So it's interesting to find out all of this, right? When I kind of dug into it, and I am by no means an astrological expert, but I did find this wonderful website of shamanic astrology, and he really went and dug deep into each one of these. And I will put the link to it in the comments so you guys can take a look at it if you want to, the article that I saw. But it's really interesting. So now that we've demystified all of it, numerology was a later add-on to it, and there's a billion different meanings for numerology, right? I tend to follow just the odds and evens meaning, because it's kind of very broad and it allows you to work with it. So when you have an odd number like 3, 5, 7, 9, you are entering into a time of change. So that is something that's going to kind of move things around and change things around. And then when you are sitting at a time of evens, it's a time, the way I work with it is a time of balance. It's a time to settle. So if you notice, that's kind of how numbers go, right? So you have 1 is change, 2 is settling after the change, 3 is change again, 4 is settling after the change, and it goes like that, so on and so forth. And so it's very easy to understand that cycle for me when it comes to numerology. So we're looking at the number 8 is an even number. And so with all the changes that's happened, this is a great time to kind of bring yourself into balance and to process all of the information that you receive. Now, there's another theory right now that talks about Sirius actually being our spiritual sun, where the counterpoint to our sun. So our sun is basically the sun that rules over all things physical and over our planet. And then you have the spiritual sun, which is Sirius, which is the one that rules over everything that is mystical, right? Everything that is happening in the universe that has nothing to do with our body. So this is kind of how another way of duality of looking at it that's very popular today. I'm actually okay with that, because it does give us, we have proof that there was a relationship there. What that relationship was that the ancient Egyptians looked at, for them, it was more connecting energy to actually something that affected them directly. And so one of the things that you can connect with during this time, connect to Sirius, and that allows you access to the higher planes. That allows you to connect, have a clear channel to your higher self, have a clear channel to divinity, have a clear channel to just about everything around you. So if you're looking to figure out what your life's purpose is, if you're looking to connect with new spirit guides, if you're starting a new spiritual practice, if you're starting any kind of different things that you're starting, now is the time to go and get questions answered. I'm going to start doing this. Is this in line with my life's purpose, right? You can do a meditation, and that's really the best way to connect with this energy. You can do a ceremony if you want to, and that's fine. But really, this is about spiritual energy, and if you kind of move on to those higher planes through meditation or through shamanic journey, that's really how you're going to be taking the most out of this energy that's being offered to you. So this can also be used at times to clear a third eye, to clear a crown chakra if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling disconnected with your craft, if you're feeling that, spirituality is not calling to you the way it used to anymore. This is a time to lift those blockages for you. So it could definitely be used for that. An interesting fact is that the Sirius is the brightest star in our sky right now. And even though it's really, really far away, it is 29 times brighter than the sun, which I thought was really interesting. So you can see how if you're looking at physical body, the sun ruling the physical body, and you look at Sirius ruling the spiritual body, we know that our spiritual body and our soul and all of that is great many times bigger than what we're able to manifest physically in this realm. So that also, to me, reinforces that connection between the two, as to one being spiritual and then one being physical. So With that being said, another way that you can use to connect with this energy is going to be tarot. If you are a member of our everyday cartomancy group in the wild community, I did post some tarot spreads there for you to use during the Lionsgate portal. And I also posted in that group also in the Year and a Day group, I posted a meditation that you can do today to connect with Lionsgate Portal. So there's a lot of energy out there. I would say that if you've never done anything with it before, if this is your first time connecting with that energy and celebrating that, I would go easy. And I would do maybe a meditation or something really calm and relaxing. It's important that you go in. This is going to be a lot of energy being sent our way right now. So it's important that you go in with purpose. You never want to enter a meditation or a journey just willy-nilly to see, hey, let's see what happens. Let's see if there's anything over there for me. You don't want to do that. So you think about what your question is ahead of time. This is what I'm going there for. This is my purpose. I'm going to go look at this. And then you step up and you go in and look at exactly what it is that you need to look at. So that is how you want to work through some of that energy as you start moving through and doing the work with this portal. Does anybody have any questions right now? And if you're on Instagram watching this, FYI, I can't see your questions, but just go ahead and post them and I will definitely reply to them after the live. So I won't be able to reply live, but I'll reply to them after. And it's just I can't get Instagram on my streaming platform because Instagram doesn't play well with others. So that's why. So I hope everybody's clear on what this energy is. I mean, it is an interesting point to me that it did come from ancient Egypt, right? This is something that's been observed. It's not a new thing, even though it's been repackaged through the New Age movement just now. This actual Lionsgate energy, or this energy of Sirius rising and connecting with our sun, is something that's been observed by humankind for a very, very long time. So, I know New Age tends to repackage a lot of things and give it a new name, give it a new spin, and that's sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But for me, it's always important to go back and understand, where is this energy coming from, and what is it that is basically giving us, what's the root of that? And we want to make sure that we can use some more modern methods to work through it. But I always want to make sure that I'm connecting with some kind of understanding what the practice was and why it was so important at that time. So perspective is very, very important because of that. Now, if you want to understand the numerology of Lionsgate, there are plenty of websites out there that will explain that to you. Numerology is a really great, powerful tool for working with magic and working with many different things. Personally, I think that it's been very overused lately, and it's been taken to a complete different side of that. And so I think if you're going to look at numerology, just go back and look at more of ancient practices of numerology, the older methods of numerology, not the new ones that people are coming up with. Because if you think about it, these new ones are based on a made up calendar that the Greeks made it up, and worked with, then the Gregorian monks took it over and they made changes to it. So, for example, perfect example, why does July and August have 31 days? Because August was Caesar's month, and Caesar wanted an extra day in the month instead of 31. And then July was Julius's month, and he wanted 31 days. So they both had to have 31 days, one after the other. So what they did is they stole 2 days from February. And this is why February is short 2 days right now. So when you start basing the more modern numerology on this human created calendar that is not really in line with what nature is all about, but this is the calendar we have. This is the calendar we have to live by. It would be impossible for you to turn around and say, well, from now on, I'm living my calendar, living my life by the ancient nature's calendar, and that's it. You would not be able to function anymore, because our entire society is working around this calendar. So when you look at numerology with this current calendar now, always take it with a grain of salt. Go back into history and look at what is the meaning that it come from. Why is it that 8 means this now? What did 8 mean back then? What it was 8 originally created for? So a lot of these practices that we have today, and really if you think about a lot of magic practices we have today, numerology, astrology, and all of that, these practices were handed down to us from ancestors. A lot of magic stuff was handed down to us from these ancient cultures that really lived very much in tune with nature. And so for them, these practices were always a direct reflection of nature. There was nothing to come in between. And as we have grown away from nature and away basically from that connection with our planet, and we've moved further and further into where we are right now, our practices have changed to accommodate our life as it is now. So it's moved more away from nature and from what's happening on a cosmic level, and it's moved more into what's happening to the human level here instead of what's, instead of looking at a more holistic look. So these are great practices to still use, but I would encourage you, and I would challenge you, I guess, to go in and see if you can find what is the reference that it originally came from, what was the intended use, and how the modifications that have come in over the years affect these practices for today. So Lionsgate is a perfect example, because it was celebrated back in ancient times. Sirius would rise in mid-July. It would never rise on August 8th. That was not when it rose. And then of the wobble of the earth, and now this is when it's rising. So things change, and we definitely need to adapt to that. We need to adapt to the earth changing, and how, our position in the universe and how we relate to everything around us, because remember, we're all looking at these things through the lens of our planet. So when the wobble changes and our planet's planetary position changes in a certain way or form, then those relationships that we have with these things will change, because we are no longer at that same spot. So obviously those things have to be taken into consideration as well. But you can still work with this energy, even though the 8/8 may not necessarily be, it is the numerological day. And if there is significance in that day for you, then great. But this actually runs from like last week of July to the, I think August 11th or 12th or something to that effect. It is really a longer period, because, the star is not just going to pop up into alignment and then pop back down. So that's not what happens. So it's very important to understand the history of what it is that you're doing, the purpose behind it, so that when you step into that practice, you're fully stepping in, comprehending and understanding what it is that you need to do. So I don't know how you guys are going to celebrate this, but for me right now, it's going to be a time of guidance. So I am going to definitely do a meditation tonight, a shamanic journey actually, and I'm going to connect with my spirit guides, because I do need a little bit of guidance in my life. So I would love to hear from you as a reply to this video. How are you planning to connect with this Lionsgate energy? And we're going to continue using the Lionsgate name, because it's become universal. And when we say Lionsgate, everybody knows what we're talking about. So we're definitely continuing to use that name. But it's important to understand that that name is a more of a modern name. It is not there's a bigger meaning behind that than just cosmic, right? Because it affects both planes, and we are spirits having a human experience. So we are affected by both planes at all times that we're doing this. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to post a reply to this video. We do have a live coming up tomorrow, and actually this is going to be the last weekly live that we're having. Going forward, I'm going to be doing the live sales once a month, and that's going to be kind of helping you guys out to kind of save some money so you can get the stuff that you really want when there's a live. But also because since we're spread out and we're doing it every week, it just feels that we're not getting as much folks watching every week. So if we do it once a month, everybody puts it on their calendar, I think it'll be a bigger event. So we're in the process of doing that. So tomorrow is the last weekly live, and then starting in September, we are going to start doing lives that are going to be happening once a month, and that will be posted on our Facebook page, and it will also be posted in the Wild community. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. It was a pleasure to be here with you guys today, and definitely let me know how you're celebrating Lionsgate and taking advantage of this amazing energy. I will see you guys all later. I will not be here next week because I'll be out of town, so it'll be the week after that, the 22nd. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.